light on again.
You fucking what?
Yeah. Like, no. Look there. Oh my fucking god, it's been years. Has it been years?
I think it has literally been years. Yeah.
Okay, alright.
And I was running out of legs to eat.
Yeah. That's okay. The cockroaches got plenty to go around.
You've been eating cockroaches' legs?
Yeah.
Fuck, I've been eating my own!
Oh. Well, shit.
It's weird that you've got through 4 of them.
They just keep coming back.
He's got plenty of spares, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's entirely fair.
Still. Alright, well, to anyone who's listening, first of all, help. And second of all, hello. Welcome back to Return to Sender. It has been a while, but we have gathered the boys here.
Don't you mean Return to Sender Remastered Edition?
Oh, yeah, the reboot.
Now in stores, $50. Give me your money.
Yeah, everyone here is now 30 years older, but we've used CGI to make them look younger, so...
Yeah, we spent a lot on the visual budget for this podcast, so I really hope that pulls through.
We couldn't get Chris Pratt in time, so we're gonna have to settle for this Microsoft Sam-ass voice I'm gonna inject here.
Hello, hi. What do you want me to say?
Perfect.
It's been a while. Should we reintroduce ourselves?
Yep, certainly. Sure. So, my name is Thunder Psyker. You might know me from the Thunder Psyker channel. I am a voice actor, someone who does retrospectives on YouTube, and is doing quite a few podcasts these days, including this one, as it were.
You mean you're returning to this one?
I'm Yeah, there we go.
So I'm Dr. White. You might know me from bad memes from 10 years ago, or my video game reviews that I shamelessly copy Thunder with.
I don't know about that. You got your own thing going with them.
But so I do crazy dumb audio video stuff, and this is something we did a few years ago, and I was like, hey, we should do it again, because I haven't seen Da Boys in a million years.
Yeah.
Speaking of Da Boy...
Hi. I go by Angles. I'm a parasite on these guys' ego. I don't do anything, I don't contribute, but occasionally I make them laugh, and so that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
It's a symbiotic relationship with that tongue-eating fish creature.
Yeah, I like that as an idea. I don't like the idea.
You like eating tongues?
Yeah, I'm the person who has eaten both of your tongues and lives in your mouth. That's just what I am.
That explains why I can't taste anything anymore.
Yeah. It explains why your newer recordings sound different to your older recordings. It's because I have parasitically changed the entire shape of your mouth.
You're the kind of person that I could totally see being like, oh yeah, I'm a parasite on these people. I just like genuinely... I mean, I've fucking seen you spitting buckshot out of a pheasant.
Yes, that has happened.
Like... goddamn!
Oh my gosh, that could be a story, but
that was again so long ago. I was curious. How long has it actually been? Has it been 3 or 4 years
since our original episode?
Yeah.
It would have been about 4.5 because I believe we recorded the first episode in the
I think it was second year of uni, so it was 4 years ago.
It was like the December of 2018, so it has been. Yeah, 4.5 years.
You know what gets trapped more than people during a lockdown? Cargo.
It's almost been 5.
I mean, I only found out it was a thing when the Evergreen got stuck, and I just couldn't feel the motion anymore.
The sweet, sweet Sahara wind blowing in, reminding me of home.
Oh, yeah, it was beautiful.
We're going to prove that we have matured. I can't even say that. I was going to say, over the last 4 years, we've definitely matured, right?
Oh, God.
Not at all. I'm sure that's what everyone who wants to listen to this horrible audio disaster that we have going on and wanted was to open up and just been like, they're already talking about COVID. It's been this long.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
The cock clock is still counting down. We haven't mentioned Dick yet. So.
No. I mean, when's COVID going to get a remaster? That's what I want to know.
Right? Yeah. Oh, Pandemic 2. I hate that.
Well, it would be Pandemic 3. I mean...
Oh, true.
Pandemic Remastered.
Oh, Christ.
No. Alright, well, I mean... I'm more in the interest of remasters, remakes, reboots, whatever the fuck you want to call them, of video games.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of which, that is always a nebulous area, is what counts as a remake, what counts as a remaster, and what counts as a... Well, a reboot is a bit more clear-cut out of the three.
Yeah, but there's also separately a re-release.
Re-release, they're like porting and bringing things onto...
So, I suppose, we should probably open with a definition of what we're going to be talking about. in terms
I
of
didn't bring a dictionary. I mean,
What
what
is-
the fuck did you guys not
what
warn
is a
me?
remaster?
What do you remaster? If you can tell by that stunning segue, that's what we want to talk about
Yep.
today. Is going to be all that kind of fun stuff. And by that, as the parasite that I am, these guys are going to talk about it, and you're going to listen to them and like their opinions. And I'm just going to say random things that maybe add or maybe deduct from what they've been saying.
Nothing wrong. Oh, listen, we need to have a heel in the podcast.
And
we've
Or
decided.
a tongue
we need,
parasite.
yeah, we need to have a tongue.
And I take up both of those slots.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Name a podcast.
You're like a fucking cursed piece of armor.
Yes, I am equipped in both the tongue and the heel. I
No,
don't like where this is going.
I'm an Ouroboros all over again.
If you like this podcast and you want to see more podcasts like this one, please go to other podcasts and comment on them. I want to see a tongue parasite. Bring a tongue parasite onto the show.
No, we need to sell T-shirts that say "Where's the tongue parasite?"
Oh, Christ.
I rode the evergreen and all I got was this lousy parasite.
I was really thinking that was just where the joke was going to end. If you want more podcasts like this, go somewhere else.
Yeah, please.
Do yourself a favor and leave.
Run while you
No.
can.
And now that the 6 or 7 people who are going to do that have done that,
Okay,
we
now our loyal audience remains of all 3 of you.
yes,
Yeah.
we love and appreciate you all.
Yes, of course. So, we're going to talk about remakes, remasters, re-releases, and the fact that the industry right now is going through kind of a deluge of them. It's really wanting to push, like, we had the Dead Space remake, which was fucking great. The Resident Evil 4 remake, which I've heard good things about.
I can attest to that being really good as
There's
well.
a Metroid one as well.
There's
isn't there?
Yes.
the Metroid one, which is
The
probably
best,
really
the
good.
best
Yeah.
games of 2023 so far have been the 3 games
That came out like 2006.
Yeah. Well, it's this is something that the industry's had an issue with for at least 10 years, if not longer. Is that sometimes there's just a lack of particularly good new ideas, and as a result, companies go, "Fuck, we got to go back to the thing that made money ages ago." For instance, the 8th generation of consoles, the PS4, Xbox One, and the like. First year of those releases was mainly just ports and re-releases. The highest rated game of 2014 was Grand Theft Auto 5, followed by The Last of Us. And it's like, okay, great, these have all already come out. Why the
They continue to exist and gain ratings.
Yeah, I think Skyrim as well.
Oh, don't get me started. Skyrim is the fucking undisputed king of remakes and remasters. Because they just release the game again and go,
Yeah.
Gonna buy it again, are you?
Yeah.
Fuck?
I really enjoy the time capsule of this is just the fact that when we were last talking, we were talking about Fallout 76
We
as
were.
it was coming out.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that went somewhere.
I believe it ended in singing. But don't worry, we're not going to do that again.
I don't know if we can get to 500 subscribers.
No,
we will
I-
release Return to Sender the musical.
No, I will. No, I refuse. No, it's interesting. I think the general consensus around remakes and remasters, more remakes than remasters, has kind of changed since that sort of console generation, though, right? I mean, would you say that the remakes that have come out recently have been a bad thing that have been born out of the desperation of companies unable to make new ideas, or is it just its own trend now that makes its own money?
I think you might be onto something with the latter, because the fact is that the remakes and like newer stuff can exist in harmony. Like, they don't necessarily have to be one or the other, which is obvious for a industry this big. And I think the best example is Resident Evil 4. Because the Resident Evil series has been going through both new games such as Village and remakes of the older stuff, such as the 2, 3, and 4 remakes, all of which have come out within the last sort of 4 years.
Actually,
Right.
that's an interesting sort of point to bounce off of, because if I remember correctly, and I'm probably not, but isn't the response to the Resident Evil 2 remake better than the Village critic response?
It might be. I mean, it's
I think that they were both received quite well by my memory.
they were. I think. I can't speak for all fans of Resident Evil, because I guess I count as that now, because I've played a ton of them. I can't speak for all of them, but it seems like people enjoyed the fact that 2 as a remake wasn't... it's one of those remakes that's very faithful to its original and yet is going with a completely different identity of its own. It goes from being a relatively campy survival horror from the early 2000s to being one that takes itself quite seriously. It adopts.
It's still kind of campy.
It is in some ways. Although the fact that they remove shit like the giant spiders and things like that, and Gunshop Kendo is the best example where they took a character whose whole shtick is to go, I thought you were a zombie. Who are you? Who gets eaten
Immediately.
Yeah, he turns into a character who's got like a tragic backstory and a daughter that he's looking after.
And a DLC campaign you can play.
Yeah, that's apparently quite good. I want to play the Ghost Survivors.
They were alright.
Yeah, to be fair, I'll just stick with for now. I'll just stick with the hunk scenario. I really like that one.
Oh, the hunk scenario is fun. I never finish it though, because I always get to that last corridor and then fucking X just shows up like, "What up, bitch? I hope you like getting punched in the jugular."
I hate to tell you, that's not the last corridor.
It's when you're outside.
Oh,
you know,
he's still there, isn't he?
Yeah,
Oh,
he just
fuck.
walks up that fucking like garden pathway, and I'm like, for fuck's sake, I'm almost out of ammo.
Oh, yeah. Okay, true.
I wasted my knife getting grabbed by things in the fucking sewers.
Yeah, but yeah, I think for the most part, like the reception to 2 Remake and 4 Remake have actually been better than Village slightly.
Okay.
But Village has been very popular. I only really have one other main perspective on Resident Evil games, and it's one that isn't particularly fond of the heavily action-oriented side of Resident Evil that it's become in modern days. Because like very light spoilers for Village, because I can't really.
Should have gave me that for
I
like.
was going to say, as if
yeah.
what's gone on before this has not been just
Yeah,
spoilers.
very light spoilers.
Oh yeah, we're gonna spoil a game from like fucking 1994. I'm sorry, people who haven't caught up on Resident Evil 2.
Guys, I think we've got to be careful here. We can't tell them that Eris dies.
Look, what I'm saying is, Siphon Filter definitely gonna be the Metal Gear killer.
Yeah,
We're all gonna remember Siphon Filter. Remember Siphon Filter?
I do remember Siphon Filter, and I remember.
Don't lie to me. Don't give me hope.
Didn't the Bugsy 3D makers?
I think
the developers
so.
make Siphon Filter? I don't remember.
think so.
I also you've outed yourself as someone who calls her Eris and not Aerith.
Yeah, I don't know what the right way to say it is. I'm one of those people who, when they read a name they don't understand, I just take the first letter of their name and call them something like that. So if someone has like a really fancy name that begins with J, I just call them James. Because
Yeah,
I
that's
can't
fair.
read.
Yeah.
It's not a failing of the author or anything like that, it's me. It's all me.
I think the thing is both names are technically right according to
Yeah.
localization. But anyway, spoilers for Resident Evil Village. Half of that game is like just action. Like you play as Chris Redfield and you shoot like 100 werewolves with a gun, and that's I think some people consider that having a lot less finesse.
Okay.
Than...
Again, spoilers, but the final boss fight against one of the villains is a fucking mech suit battle.
Okay, shit.
And it's like, why do I have a Gatling gun and a chainsaw? Oh, I'm in a mech suit. I'm a fucking robot now.
Yeah, which is very different.
And then the main villain turns around and sees an explosion and goes, "That boulder-wielding fuck!" Because he's talking about Chris.
The boulder punching fuck that
Yeah.
is Chris Redfield.
That's a great line.
But as far as how this relates to remakes and reboots, like just Resident Evil is a very strange example of that, where both sides of that spectrum are still being received very well, but they're going for completely different things. It seems like the reboot side of Resident Evil is going for putting the older, campier games into a more serious light, while the newer games are getting more campy and stupid.
Yeah, but does that kind of follows the progression of those games traditionally, right?
Oh
Because
yeah, it's cycles, doesn't it?
Yeah, because RE4 was a lot campier, or it was the campiest one up until a point in its original form after RE2, and so it makes sense that the remakes do the same thing and they build up on it in the same way.
Yeah.
You're the only one who's going to know enough about the modern remakes, because for what I know, neither of us have played.
I played the RE2 remake.
Oh, you played RE2. You haven't played RE4.
They've kept some of the lines in RE4. I'm like, one of the things I want to bring up actually is changing thematics of things.
Right.
So, for example, they changed the voice actor for the trailer. So rather than having you fucking like, what are you buying? What are you selling? He's a lot more like. It's still got the same delivery, but he's a lot less crazy.
Similar theme.
He's like, gun rhymes with fun, stranger. He's way more like bubbly and like.
Yeah, it's an interesting reinterpretation of that character, but I mean that one's additionally difficult, as I'm sure you guys would understand as being VAs, where, if you can't get the person who was going to do that voice. I don't know whether that's true or not. I don't even know whether they tried to get the original actor.
I think the original voice actor for the trailer was the same voice actor who was doing, not Chris,
Leon.
Leon, yeah. They just were like, hey, we've got a character that needs voices. You're in the office.
Yeah.
Sit down and read some more lines.
Yeah. So if you're going to recast Leon, why bring back the old guy if you're then not going to bring... But then again, that rule's broken a few times. Like, take, for instance, this is a really dumb example. Wes Johnson got brought onto Skyrim to voice Sheogorath again, but he's not voicing the Imperials in that game, which he did in Oblivion.
The voice changing though from Bethesda is really odd. The fact that every trailer of a Bethesda game that comes out, and I mean the E3 trailers, almost always have different voice acting to the final product.
Oh yeah.
If you look at they did it for Oblivion and they did it for Skyrim as well, where the voice acting of the Dark Elves specifically changes. I mean, again in Oblivion, in the original Oblivion E3 trailer, it's the gravelly voiced. Dark Elf, I can't remember the guy's name.
The Morrowind one.
Yeah, it's the same one as Morrowind.
He's also the guy... No, that's the wrong one. I'm thinking of the default one you get in the end game, so the release. It's the same guy that voices so many characters from things we like. So fucking Diomedes, some guys from CNC3, Fuck, what is his name?
His name's Keith something.
That's the one. That's like a weird long... Fucking fantastic voice actor.
I don't think he was in Oblivion, but he is
I'm
Fallout.
pretty sure it is him.
What, he's voicing the Dark Elves?
He might have voiced one. Because I recently just played through the... Not Solstheim, what the fuck's the DLC called?
Shivering.
Dragonborn.
In Skyrim, yes.
That's what I'm referring to.
He voices, fuck his name, I don't know.
The thing with the original Resident Evil games and the remakes and stuff like that is that I have very little to contribute on that, other than the fact that I remember a lot of the only bit of criticism I remember of Resident Evil Village was the herder like Trump something. But they were just like the family are rednecks, and so
for 7, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's the building it also during Village. It was during the time of I think it was prior to his inauguration, but it was during his campaign.
Yeah.
I remember comments on that, but that's my distillation of what I remember about Resident Evil's feedback, other than people generally liking it for Village. Not Village. I mean,
they were generally liking it for Big Mummy Vampire.
Well, that was what I was going to say. Is that 7 is the one that is herder redneck funny, and then Village is the one with Big Mummy Vampire.
Yeah.
And those are the only criticisms or comments I remember about that, because I know so little about it.
So there are 4 major families in Village that you have to face off. Yeah, and Lady, what's her name?
Demetrius.
Yeah. She's like the first family you have to fight, and
it's
everyone just fucking forgets the other 3 because she's the most interesting.
But it's also one of the shortest ones, isn't it? Because I've seen a playthrough of the game, but that's again, like I said, I don't know much about the criticism of the game.
It's the survival horror problem, because I'm currently playing through Dead Space Remake again. The first couple of hours are pants-shittingly engaging. You're like, oh, what's that on that corner? Is that a dangerous thing? Is that a thing running at me that's going to stab me? And then the last 6 hours of the game is I have a gun that shoots stars, and my fist is neutron fucking mass. I am going to fuck anything that gets in my way. And you get boss tier enemies just thrown at you because they're like, oh god, slow them down quickly.
Well, I kind of like that about those games though, because to some extent, because I didn't play the Resident Evil games, I did play The Evil Within, which is a very similar. Who fucking remembers that game, right? It has a very similar system.
The Evil Within 2.
I don't mean The Evil Within 2, weirdly enough. I think it's an interesting solution to the problem of the player is playing a horror game and is eventually, if not already, is desensitized to the horror that you're selling to them by the midpoint in the game. And to be fair, there are a lot of developers who can sort of get around that. I mean, thinking back to Alien Isolation and stuff like that, that's terrifying all the way through, in my opinion. Despite the fact you do get more and more ways to deal with the alien as it goes on. there are other games, so like the Resident Evil games, I think might struggle with, or at least the Evil Within very much, in my opinion, struggle with its horror aspect later on into the game because, like you said, White, it's you just become murder psycho by that point. But that's a cool pivot in gameplay sometimes, and I think that's quite popular, and hence possibly why in the newer sort of Resident Evil in these remakes that they have pivoted harder into that, because that's kind of what people want by the mid game.
Yeah,
There are still horror sequences though. I mean, the demon baby bit in Village is horrifying, and I hate it.
I think the body trauma in Village is my like the thing that gets me the most. Is just like, oh yeah, I lost some fingers. That makes me like go,
the visceral amputations that happen in that series are very, very good. I can't imagine what they must be like in VR. I know that not Village, the 7.
Seven
has was the one that I remember has a lot of VR support, or at least
it did.
Yeah, and I imagine because he gets his hand lopped off in the first sort of like 15 minutes.
But yeah,
right?
it's like, for the record, 7 is like not unanimously, but very widely considered like good.
It's fucking
big
fantastic, remake, wasn't it? Of the RE series.
Well,
would you call it a remake?
Yeah, this is the thing. Is if we're talking,
it's not a remake, is it?
It's not a remake. So the first RE remake, they remade the first game for the GameCube. They and it's honestly it's a very, very, very good remake, because they took a 5th generation PS1 game that was very low poly, and went, right, we're going to put this onto a higher res system, and we want to get as much of this as we can. It's a fixed camera angle game that's full of a bunch of puzzle elements and things like that. So we're just gonna pre-render all the backgrounds, and so the GameCube only has to put all of its power into the character models, and that's it. Things still move, things still react with the environment, but they get a ton out of the small amount of space that they've got to work with.
When you've got a locked camera angle, you can literally just draw a picture, force a mesh on it, and then go, you're never going to move around, so this mesh can be as low poly as we want, because the texture is a single fucking flat image painted over the screen.
Yeah.
It's perspective tricks.
Yeah, and that's the first like remake in that series. 4 is kind of arguably a reboot, because it's a completely different gameplay style from 3.
Okay.
They made a few kind of spin-off and side games in the meantime, but they were becoming progressively...
Don't you mean Code Veronica?
Yeah, they were becoming... Yeah, Code Veronica was arguably a mainline, but that's splitting hairs. But they were becoming way less popular. People got sick of them.
Right.
So they made Resident Evil 4, and that took off. And they went, well, shit, this is what our games have to be like now. They then made 5, they then made 6... And then 7 was a return to form as well.
Well, 6 was informed a lot by the gaming design ethos of the time, though, right? This is when COD and all that.
Brown as hell.
Yeah,
co-op campaigns all. Every campaign's a co-op campaign.
There's some through line with the others, because I think it's a very clear example. Because you were talking about how horror naturally pivots you to becoming just a murder kill, and it becomes less scary.
It can. Yeah.
And you can tell that,
like Outlast or something.
Yeah, but that's because when you put combat in a game, when you make a sequel, you want to expand upon that combat and give people more options. And in horror games, the only things you need to do to expand options is to go, okay, what if you could like dodge? And then people go, oh my god! And then you just find yourself going down this huge slippery slope of, well, shit, Resident Evil is now a martial arts, like, jump around, kick people game.
Speaking of dodging, I'm going to steal a point from another YouTuber, Mandalor's review recently, or, well, I say recently, a couple of years back now, of Dead Space 2, and how we talked about, now Isaac moves way more like a boxer. He moves, he slides side to side. He has a much better sort of movement to him, rather than how Dead Space 1 made you feel like you're walking around in a suit of armor that very much was not comfortable to wear and was built for like industrial purposes.
Yeah.
2, you feel like, oh, I'm more natural. It form fits better. It's more of an action game, which fits with that sort of change towards action. Yeah. The remaster, which I'm currently playing, they've just gone with the action angle. Like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, a lot of the times I generally feel like Isaac still has that heaviness to his movement, like he's wearing a bulky fucking welding suit.
Right.
But he moves more, because they've obviously had to redo all the animations, they've they've not just imported the original animations, they've gone ahead and mocapped them all over again. He moves like someone who's actually leaning into their motions. And like, if you turn on the spot to like dodge, say, like those fucking babies that spit stuff at you, if you dodge their attacks, like Isaac moves like he's having to force his weight into his motion. And it feels a lot... It feels like he's able to move easier in the suit compared to the original, where it definitely felt like, because obviously the game's not good at turning very fast, you felt like you were wearing a ton of fucking steel on your chest.
But I'm curious whether or not that comes from the fact that developers now have such a better contact point with the people who play their games and also criticize them. The fact that games criticism is such a huge market, especially on YouTube and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm curious how. So, for example, you bring up sort of the Dead Space stuff. Dead Space has that movement system, and the idea of in the original versions, it was clunky, and that may have been by design, but that may have been a constraint that was based on the engine. Since that has sort of gone on and technology has improved, the question is, have they changed that because that's what they intended? Or is it because in the criticism of the original Dead Space, I don't know whether this is true, but I'm saying if there is a criticism of Dead Space that, hey, the characters move clunkily and all that kind of stuff, they then changed it based on that criticism. Do you then look at the remaster as a part of iterative design, or do you think they should have just gone, no, they should have kept it within the confines of the original, but as a graphical update? I think that's the fine line you've got to tread with the remasters. Is how much do you change and why do you change it? And unfortunately, we won't know for a lot of reasons, because a lot of the developers are quite cagey about talking about these things.
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't want to say stuff before release, because obviously that generates, intrigue, and intrigue generates purchases to have a look, to see what they've done. But at the same time, they also don't want to, generate flack if it's something people aren't going to be happy about before release. So being quiet about this stuff, if it's a bad choice, well, that's going to come out in reviews after release.
Right.
Whereas if they say it beforehand, they just lose their hype. Sales go down the fucking tank.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, that could be a whole discussion in and of itself. Is how games can just lose their hype in countless different ways. But I will be here forever if I go on to that, because I'm a bit burnt on Killing Floor 2. That's one I always think of.
Oh, Killing Floor 2 is such a fucking. No, we should not talk about Killing Floor, because that will be a whole experience.
Yeah,
that will be a shared trauma. We both just cry into the mic, going, "What did they do to my boy?"
Yeah, please sign up to the Patreon version of this podcast where that rant has been left in.
3-hour-long rant about what the fuck they do to berserkers. My love for it was like a truck, berserker.
But yeah, the thing with it is I'm curious as to how you guys feel about it. As in terms of remasters, should they be considered as a continuation of the iterative process of design, or are they separate products in and of themselves?
This, you fucking fool! You absolute
You've
buffoon.
activated his
because
trap
you know
card.
what you've done. You've given me an excuse to talk about Fire Emblem.
Yes, I have.
Oh god,
right.
no!
So,
We'll be stuck
okay.
here forever.
Yeah, okay. So this is gonna. Now we're here for 3 hours on this. So one of my favorite games is a Fire Emblem remake called Fire Emblem Echoes: Shadows of Valentia. I don't like calling it the full title. I'll just call it Echoes. It is a remake of the second Fire Emblem game, which was released in 1992 for the NES.
Okay.
And they released it in 2017. And that game is, in some places, maybe a little bit too faithful to its original. The map design is so bare bones that it's a massive detriment to that game compared to some of its others in the recent series. But it does a ton of other new stuff, so much so that it is considered a mainline Fire Emblem game.
Right.
It's not considered, for instance, briefly onto that Resident Evil thing again. The Resident Evil remakes aren't being named Resident Evil 9, 10, 11, 12. They're just being called the 2 remake or the 3 remake and things like that.
Would you not say that, culturally and colloquially, they're considered new releases for that game?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they should be. Like Resident Evil 2 compared to its remake is a completely different game in my opinion. 4 is a bit closer despite feeling way different. But I'm going
to play devil's advocate and say there are situations. An example of the situation where that's the reverse is not Far Cry, although there was many versions of Far Cry, Red Faction Guerrilla had a remake, the Remastered edition.
Oh,
Which-
I forget Red Faction Guerrilla.
Everyone forgets about it. And the thing is I go back to play it occasionally and I'm like, this game fucking rocks. Fuck, this is a good game. I remember everyone was like, oh man, this was fun. Space asshole. You know.
Do you remember the gaming magazines that used to exist? Like GameSmart. Was it GameSmart?
Oh, there was a ton, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was my last. That's my last like hidden bit of memory with
just
with
fucking-
Red Faction Guerrilla is remembering getting those. I got maybe 5 in my entire life.
Fucking made me big smoke there, remembering fucking
Oh.
Nintendo Power and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Back to what you were saying, Thunder.
Yeah.
With regards to Echoes.
Yeah, sorry. Because Echoes does enough that it's considered like its own mainline game. I think all of the remakes are, which is a bit weird, but that's because they've mostly remade very antiquated stuff by the standards of whenever they've come out.
Well, yeah. That's what you would do, right? You wouldn't remaster the thing that came out a few years ago unless you're Bethesda.
As much as true.
Buy
But-
Skyrim
yeah.
again,
Yeah.
now on ocular implant.
Yeah. Just this game is a very weird example of simultaneously committing to being just like the original while also having a ton of stuff that is utterly different.
Right.
For instance, you guys don't know that much about Fire Emblem.
No.
One of the things you
I
might
know it killed my favorite series.
I know it killed Advance Wars. Don't worry, they're
Oh
remastering
yeah,
it.
they made
Remember?
everyone have the fucking SoCal Arts face. Everyone looks like Steven Universe. What the fuck?
So one thing that's known about that series is the weapon triangle.
Right.
Swords beat axes, axes beat lances, lances beat swords. That's not in Echoes. It was something that just wasn't in Gaiden, and every game after Gaiden put it back in and kept for that. And with Echoes, they just went, no,
Right.
we're not doing this. And that then translated into Three Houses, which was the game after that.
Right.
That, like, there's...
Three Houses. I remember you talking about it like it was the fucking shit. You were
Well,
like, Three
yeah.
Houses. Oh yeah, I'm enjoying this
It
so
had
much.
a cool premise.
Yeah,
by what I remember.
I fucking love Three Houses, but but then there's other things where it's like, okay, here are weapon arts that wasn't in the original. Here are entirely new characters that weren't in the original. Here is a ton of stuff to recontextualize the plot and world building and all this shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that wasn't in the original. Here are dungeons. Oh, that can't have been in the original. No, that wasn't in the original. That was, and it's like, what the fuck? The lines blur, and you're like.
Right.
And it's strange because some of the best and worst things in that game are utterly new.
Right.
Yeah, like the worst, and I would argue the single best character and the single worst character in Echoes are both entirely new creations. And
Yeah.
that's very odd.
See, it's interesting that you talk about that and then talk about how the next game in the chain of Fire Emblem then had a lot of the things from that remake, and so it goes to show that they were possibly testing those things prior to. So it was like how Serana in I think it's Serana, the vampire companion in Dawnguard.
Yeah, Skyrim's Dawnguard.
Yeah, she was if you look back on it, she is the tester for Fallout 4's NPCs.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that in the example that you bring up, that's the way it does. But like I said, I'm curious as to, do you think that that's a good thing that they have decided to iterate on their design process, or do you think it would have been better if they had remade as loyally as they could to the original?
Well, ultimately, unless you want to talk.
I mean, I can provide an alternative perspective, the other side of the argument. This is not a reiterative process, because I can talk about CNC Remastered.
Okay, I was gonna briefly conclude my
Go on, go
Fire
ahead.
Emblem thing. But my argument, my response to that is that I think that it is a good thing to use your remake to be like a new iteration of that game.
Right.
Because frankly, what matters and what makes Echoes still work really well is that the person who directed Echoes is someone who passionately loved Gaiden, despite the fact that Gaiden, or Fire Emblem 2, is arguably one of the worst Fire Emblems. It's incredibly bare bones, it's incredibly janky, but it was made by someone who was like, I used to play this with my dad. I love everything about this game. I want to reimagine it in a way that people get that same level of enthusiasm that I did when I was a kid. And if you've got at least that commitment to the spirit of what the original is, you can change the maps, you can add new
Oh,
combat mechanics, you can add new characters that make that world more enriched.
Because you know what the heart of what you're remaking is. And that's the important thing.
Yeah.
Is to remember the core, the heart, the soul of the thing you're trying to re-release and show to people. Because that's what ultimately a game is about. The rest of it's superfluous fucking wrapping around it. It's the organs and bones and skin that keep it from, like, drying out.
Yeah.
But the heart of a game, that's... If you can capture that, you can remake something.
Yeah.
I think the Dead Space remake does that. I think the Resident Evil 2 remake does that. This is going to be my fucking springboard, Connor.
Yeah, go on.
I'm stealing a conversation.
No, I was just about to ask you this.
My springboard straight in is one of the lead devs for the Sane Remastered collection, or I say lead devs, like one of the most vocal people involved in the project, was a guy that went by the handle of Jim Turn. And that guy fucking loved the series. He was incredibly into it. Now, it showed every time. Like, he went out of his way trying to find, like, cassette tapes containing the original and, like, the original recordings of the scenes and such. So you could get, like, upscale the footage from, like, film rather than having to, like, use an AI. Couldn't in the end. But that game sticks so close to its guns. It's like, oh, we gave all the models high resolution, like, nice art now. You can switch on and off, so you can go back to being pixelated or being high-res art.
Right.
And you can have a big resolution. That's it. The gameplay, the campaign, everything is as it was back in, like, the early 90s.
Well, see, that's the difference between a remake and a remaster, right? So you're talking about a remaster there where someone has just, they haven't
It's
adapted
nice.
and changed the original. They have just updated it to the modern, like, software and hardware and all that kind of stuff and made it look appropriate for the decade, right?
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about sort of Echoes, it was Echoes.
It was
the one.
Echoes,
Yeah. That would fall closer to like a remake, right?
Yeah, because it's not built on the original engine or anything. It's a completely...
So would you then would it then be fair to say that a remaster isn't part of the iterative design process of games, whilst a remake is?
I think so, because as a remaster really, if I was to be puritanical about it, I would say a remaster should just be put the old thing on this new thing.
Like, make it work on modern hardware, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that again is the interesting thing I wanted to point out as well, is like, do you then think that remakes are negatively affecting the history of gaming software? As in, they are wallpapering over previous versions of the game. Because now when you say, I'm playing Resident Evil 4. They go, the one that came out recently, right?
Yeah.
It's not the one that came out a while ago. In the same vein that, you say, I really love John Wick, and the kids go, from Fortnite, right?
Oh, yeah, God.
So,
he needs your credit card. He's trapped in Tomato Town.
Yeah. Because that is a fair point to make.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a legitimate concern, and it's something that I was worried about with especially Resident Evil 4. Like,
right.
Because I think that the original Resident Evil 4 is something that is very special. I made a whole fucking podcast about it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's becoming RE Podcast 2.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I swear we won't talk too much about it.
My entire position on this podcast is just devil on both of your
shoulders
and just devil's advocating you both.
Oh, don't
into
worry.
this
We
rambling.
will grill you in a minute for your taste in remakes.
No, I wasn't prepared!
But I have just thought of one that I think is a good example of my worries about this kind of like paving over thing, and that is Crash Bandicoot.
Okay. Yeah.
The Sane Trilogy, which was a remake of the first three, that came out in 2017, and
that didn't do so good, did it?
No, it did amazingly well. That's the thing. It did great. It sold millions and millions. It's the main reason that Crash has gotten 2 new games and Spyro has gotten 0. Yeah, I know that's fucked up, but
no one's Spyro anymore.
I know but that's a thing, right? That's another one I'll get to.
No, here goes Thunder talking about how fuckable the dragons are in Spyro.
Listen, the dragon daddies are fucking important. Angles.
There are many dragon.
There are
daddies
many
in that
dragon
game.
daddies. God, now everyone knows it's all about the fawn and the bunny rabbit. Anyway, the fucking the Insane Trilogy.
Yeah,
a lot of people like it, and that's their preferred way and chosen way of playing Crash. For many people, it's how they played Crash. It was their way of jumping into it. it's in my opinion, and it has a lot of quality of life improvements where they've gone, okay, Crash 1, you have to complete a bonus round if you want to save. You can't just go to the pause menu and save. You have to do that, you have to put in a password. It's from that fucking era of games.
Oh,
And-
man, I have so
and-
many notebooks full of those fucking things.
Yeah, and that means that that just makes it way less accessible to get into. They do away with that. They get rid of they cut down some of the fat. But in my opinion, it's still a worse. The N. Trilogy is still a worse way of playing those games because one, I think it is uglier, which is a wild statement to say comparing a
OG
polygonal...
Dingo Dial was so much more fuckable, let's be honest.
I'm all about OG henchman, mate. You know, the fucking guy with the Howie stream.
Object dot motherfucker.
But something that is sometimes complained about is the hitboxes are wrong.
Oh god,
Some of the levels in the remaster are harder than the original because the original hitboxes for Crash is a cube.
Square, yeah.
Yeah, it's a cube.
Right.
Which means that you can be just on the edge of a platform and still just barely make it.
Right.
And the geometry wasn't... I'd like to say it's designed around that is giving it a bit too much credit. It's more worked in spite of it.
Right.
The remaster gives his hitbox a round pill shape, which a lot of... If you ever use...
I've heard
And a
this,
lot
yeah.
of the edges of surfaces and world geometry are slanted slightly.
Yeah.
So you get the edge of a surface and go, ah, shit,
Yeah.
fall in the pit. It's like,
Yeah.
I was on the platform, you
Yeah.
fuck!
Jumps you could have made in the original become jumps that you mess up in the real one. What?
In the real one?
In the real world!
Only real ones will know.
Now, this is my concern. It's overwritten the original. It's become the real one.
Yeah, it just
There are
it
going to
does,
be
though.
there are going to be people now who are like, oh yeah, I know that game. It was all right, a bit hard,
Yeah.
and they're not going to know the original because they played the remake.
And it's a similar thing. Like, Crash is a lot less of an extreme example of, say, things being like, what would you call it? Overwritten. Like, there's not a story to Crash Bandicoot that gets recontextualized. The closest to that is that the damsel in distress character isn't just a blow-up doll, I guess. Like,
Yeah, but did they like make her a time traveler in the new game?
They in Crash 4 they meet a alternate universe version of her who's like a badass pirate girl, and she's a girl boss character with a large butt. That's all it's really.
Because they were like, we want to have both the sister character but also the sexy character.
Yeah.
But they were the same person in the original, so what the fuck do we do?
Why not make them both?
No!
We are not condoning Crash fucking his sister. That will...
Aren't we? Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't get that.
This is the incest is not a part of our podcast.
We are not talking about Drag Dragoon right now.
Oh my fucking god! Listen, we can't talk about incest. We've already gotten Fire Emblem out of the way. But I guess as a contrast, the Spyro remake I think is very well done.
Right.
It also loses something along the way, but I think it makes up for that enough that I can excuse that being the preferred way to play that game and the new way to play that game.
Okay.
There's something very charming about the original Spyro 1, 2, and 3, and not to mention I think the voice acting in it is better.
Yeah.
But there's
something about that crispy PS1, like early PS2, like voice quality that I fucking love.
Yeah. That being said, now that I think about it, the main benefit to playing the remake over the original is the platforms you own and the graphics.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, I do still think that the original Spyros look good in their kind of stylized way.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that the amount of love that went into the new environments and new levels in the remasters is worth it.
Yeah.
So in terms of it being like overriding the originals and that taking up that space in gaming, I think there's every reason to be worried. And really what you've got to hope for is that the remakes kind of like you still have the option to have both, and that ultimately like.
Well, yeah, the thing is that in some cases you do have the opportunity to have both, right? But because, as I said earlier, there aren't as many people. I know there are some organizations. I can't remember the name. There is an organization that is specifically built around retaining sort of video game history.
Night Dive.
Is it Night Dive? I can't remember the
Night
name.
Dive do a lot of like early game, PC game re-releases
Yeah.
that are trying to be as close to the original as possible, but just running on modern systems.
Oh, I'm talking more like I can't remember what the place was called, but it's like it's the equivalent of a video game seed bank.
Like it's basically like
The archive of everything.
Yeah,
That one.
it's like the Library of Congress.
Yeah, kind of, but
Because they got like court cases with like Nintendo recently because they were like, "You're not selling this anywhere. It's abandonware.
Yeah.
It's been abandonware for 10 years. What the fuck are you doing with it?"
yeah, and there are so many, and that was kind of the thing I wanted to point out is that there are so many cases where you can't have both, and there are examples of games that, like you say, are abandonware that just don't exist anymore, and it's very sad about that, and it's a shame that there is a possibility that these remakes, less so remasters, because remasters, as you were talking about earlier, with Command and Conquer, they capture the heart of it, and so that's kind of retained, and especially if they stay loyal to it. And in that case, I don't mind that the original versions of Command and Conquer cease to exist if the remaster existed, right? This is what I'm not a huge fan of CNC, I'm not saying that should happen. But
Honestly,
my point is...
honestly, tomorrow, if everyone said like every version of CNC from from the 90s is gone, the only copy available now, full stop, is the remastered edition, I'd just be like, okay.
Sad, but okay.
No, because it's the same fucking game. It's
Fair
just
enough.
like, oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So that's the thing with Resident Evil. If like in Resident Evil 4 or as you say in the Crash in Sane Trilogy, if they became the only versions of that game that existed, that would be a real shame.
Yeah.
For the history of gaming. The other thing I'm curious to point out as well is that we were talking about earlier how Resident Evil 6 was inspired by the design decisions made by Call of Duty, right? Would you say then these new Resident Evil games and these new remakes for Metroid and for Dead Space, and there's another one that I can't remember now that came out recently. We literally said it earlier. I can't remember it.
Resident Evil,
I have brain rot.
Metroid.
I have brain rot. I can't
My
do
fuck.
it.
If you can remember what we said like an hour ago, leave a comment below.
Yeah, please comment a timestamp here telling us what it was.
So, Resident Evil 6 was inspired by the design decision made by Call of Duty, right?
Yeah.
Is it then, do you then have a concern that now that these remakes come out and these remasters have come out, that the next generation of games that comes out are now going to regress and take the same inspiration from these remakes that have been popular?
Oh, they might. That's the...
Okay,
Oh.
I'm going to be devil's advocate on this one.
Yeah, do it.
I think that might be a good thing.
It could be.
Because I genuinely think we had a really shitty time for like, and this is going to be probably a controversial time to say, I think like 2014 to 2019?
That's a long time.
It was a long time, but a lot of games just went nowhere.
I'll mention one thing, which is we could talk about, because now it seems like we're talking mainly about archival.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you just look at any game that's quote-unquote, well, live service is slightly different, but games that have been updated over years. Recently, the PS3 versions of the Orange Box, the servers for Team Fortress 2 are going down.
Oh, really? I
And
didn't know that.
Yeah, and those were some of the... that and the Xbox 360 versions are some of the only ways you can play on-release Team Fortress 2 before hats, before new weapons, before bounce.
I mean, there are mods on the PC that attempt to recreate the original, but there's so many variations, and be like, oh, we want to have like the beta style, or, oh, we want to have like TFC but new.
That's so fascinating because that's specifically TF2, right? Is such a cultural touchstone for YouTubers.
Yes.
Right? Think of how many creators that has just built the career of.
Oh, that slaps me on the dick!
And the fact that that version of the game will not exist or will not be available to play is an interesting thought. I mean, nothing lasts forever and all that kind of shit, right? But at the same time, I don't know. That's I didn't realize that was happening.
I mean, to parallel that, Team Fortress 2 and to some degrees CS Source enabled Gary's mod.
Yeah.
And I would not be exaggerating if I said that my current career of making YouTube videos and also being an internet funny man was not made possible by Gary's mod.
Oh, Gary's mod, yeah,
It was
absolutely.
a fucking springboard for people creating shit.
So many people.
Yeah, and it's I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I think I had something to add, and I've lost it. But
We are all afflicted with
Topic
brain rot.
destroyer.
It's the curse of being a millennial. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
Are we millennials? Are we Zoomers? What the fuck are we?
I don't fucking know
Gen
I
anymore.
think
Z.
if we go by the technical definitions that you can Google, I think that white is a millennial, but we're Zoomers.
Wow.
Yeah. No, genuinely, like I'm like on the line.
No,
Yeah.
white's
Yeah.
a boomer.
I am a neo-boomer.
Neo boomer. I'm just imagining an old guy just in neon t-shirts.
No,
You know?
I was picturing like a fucking like guy sitting on his porch on a rocking chair with like a robot eye, being like, "Fucking kids! When I was a boy, we survived the second nuking of Japan."
Jesus
Damn.
Christ. That already happened.
I'm already too. I'm thinking of Akira. You fuck.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, I haven't watched that.
Apologies to any audience from Japan who thinks that's insensitive. I didn't mean to mock your country's horrible, horrible catastrophe that happened.
I'd like to apologise to the really swollen up guy from Akira who blows up.
I have not watched Akira.
Oh,
I think it's worth it.
It's definitely. We went to see it in cinema when it was hosted one time. We just sat there like, well, that was a film.
I've
Yeah.
been meaning to watch it, to be fair. It's been on the list. I've been going through the various, like, really well animated traditional, sort of anime films, and I only recently watched, Vampire D Bloodlust. That was really good. As in, it looked pretty. It's a popcorn film. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a classic piece of cinema, but it's beautiful. It looks great.
It's funny we're talking about movies because this actually brings up a really interesting point.
Uh-huh.
When you remaster a movie, that's a very specific term in the film industry.
Yeah.
You take the original film, you maybe get some cut footage that wasn't used, go for the director's cut approach.
Yeah.
And the director's cut is genuinely like, we've got a bunch of extra footage we didn't use in the final version.
Yeah.
Here it is. But that's not like creating new things. That's just adding what we already had.
Yeah.
We just didn't have time for.
Yeah, it can be. That is. I
Yeah.
think you're right in saying that that's the majority
Let's
of
not
cases.
let's not talk about how Blade Runner and how fucking
You fucking knew her.
Ridley
Oh
Scott
my
changes what he
God.
says every fucking
Yeah.
I
movie.
was gonna, let's not
The-
talk about Ridley Scott. Sorry, keep going.
Like
Ridley Scott and his riddles me.
one devil on your shoulder is adding Harrison Ford dubs over your film, and the other angel on your shoulder is adding a dinosaur's anus horribly CGI'd across it, walking along like fucking George Lucas.
Release the cat's butt edit. I want the cat's butt edit.
Someone's got to have backed that up on their computer file,
Again,
right?
for anyone who isn't also afflicted with brain rot, what White's referring to is the Cats movie, not
Yeah.
just a random animal's asshole.
Yeah, I also have to stress I had to say George Lucas because I realised talking about
You
a
were just talking
dinosaur's
about
anus.
Dino Dumpies, and
Yeah.
it's just like.
Alright, and that's maybe one of the more obscure, fucking weird extended cut George Lucas shit.
It's the dewbacks walking across.
Yeah, where it's like, why the fuck did they do that?
Yeah, I mean, dewbacks are cool. They're big
Yeah.
lizards with stormtroopers riding on.
Well, okay, though, yeah, but no. I mean the one. There's a bit in Mos Eisley where they're driving the speeder through. It's just before the stormtroopers go like, "Have you got ID?" and all that.
Yeah,
They just CGI a dinosaur walking over that scene for
Oh.
no reason.
Okay.
Like, that's the one I mean.
Yeah, those remakes of the original trilogy where they're just like CGI everything, fuck it. It's disgusting.
Yeah,
But-
fuck that.
But that's actually the point I was going to make, was
Yeah.
the original, like, when you remaster something in the films industry, the typical approach is, I want to, add some more scenes, fix up the video, we're going to upscale it, or rather, we're going to get the original footage and just blow it up because it's a fucking camera shot, meaning it is basically pixel perfect to an infinite degree, and you could just expand that image permanently, and it's a matter of focus at that point. Okay, that's some camera nerd shit that like all of one person is probably gonna get, but you can then have remakes of movies. Like what do we have recently? It was Remade, because there's been some remakes of movies. Oh, I'm gonna quote one that everyone's gonna be like, "What the fuck, White?" Old Boy.
Yeah, Old Boy was the only one that was coming to mind for me.
Old Boy has a remake that's Americanized. Old Boy 1's fucked up. Like the original Old Boy, is it Korean?
I think
it
so.
is, yeah.
Is a fucked up movie.
Could be wrong. It could be.
But they were like, "Oh no, we gotta sensitize it because Western audiences." And that's the thing, is when you remake a movie, there's so much more at risk 'cause you have to remake the whole thing. You can't go back and use chunks of it unless you're making a Tron movie. But
Well, I mean, the difference between remasters of films and also music as well, right? And then the difference between that with games is that comparative to games, there's no interactive element, and so there's much less to change in a remastered film or a remastered like track than there is to a game. And so I understand why some studios, when they do remaster things, because I often wonder whether or not
Unless you're the guy behind Tubular Bells and you spend 20 years being like, no, I must get this sounding perfect.
Mike Oldfield is a genius, or at least was. But with regards to the remasters, I wonder, it's not surprising that a developer, when they're remastering a game, then throws in other stuff. Because there are so much more options to do so. Also, I'm actually quite curious as to how many games were remastered as a compromise to being remade.
Ooh.
So one we've been playing through is Dark Souls 1.
Oh yeah,
because I'm curious, because that was that came. I'm not sure whether the remaster came out before or after the Demon Souls remake.
It came out before.
I think it came out before, yeah. But I'm curious whether or not there was a conversation in the design room saying, "Hey, which of these two do we remake?" They made the right decision, the one that is much harder to play because of availability. But I'm curious as to how often a game is like, we want to remake this game. Studio's budget collapses, or some investor pulls out, or the higher ups say something. No, and then they have to do a remaster. And I'm curious as to whether or not that is the cause of some of them. But like we said earlier, there's a lot of devs don't talk about this kind of stuff, so it's unfortunate that it doesn't ever come through.
Yeah.
By the way, if anyone wants if anyone wants a supercut of Thunder screaming whilst falling to his death in Dark Souls 1, I will happily oblige.
Oh god, yeah, you've been recording those, or we've been playing.
I've only got like 2 or 3 really
must get
funny
more.
ones, but yeah, I've been very tempted to record that entire playtime session, because there have been some very silly moments.
I mean, there have been, speaking of like scenes like that, there have been times me and you've been playing together, playing Red Alert 3.
Yeah.
And there was that joke about we were just chatting and we get to the scene where it's like the first mission of the Soviet campaign and the Empire of the Rising Sun is invading St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Classic.
how the fuck did Japan get all the way... you're like, how did Japan get all the way around Russia? And I'm like, yeah, it's like a twink giving a bear a reach around. We just sat there for a second and then burst the laughter out. And I was like, fuck, why was I not recording that?
I don't think you realise on how many layers
Yeah,
that
it was
works.
fucking onion of... No, I think like halfway through I was like, oh fuck, I've got a good one here.
Yeah, you need to reuse that line if you do a fucking Command & Conquer 3
I
video.
probably will.
Red Alert 3,
yeah,
sorry.
I probably will do a Red Alert series. I want to say it here because it's probably going to never go to my audience, but fuck it. The issue with doing Red Alert series is the Ukraine war. I really don't want to do Red Alert 1 or Red Alert 2 because Ukraine is kind of a stickler point in those games. Specifically, Red Alert 1 has, like, you committing atrocities against it. And it's like nerve gas attacks and shit, and it's like, I don't want to do that.
It's a bit too real.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to cover that right now.
That's entirely fair. It's a very good reason to not cover it, of all the reasons you could have had.
Instead, I will cover generals and have, like, the most stereotypical Captain America-ass fucking terrorists being like, Durka, and like, oh god, no, this is so bad.
I mean, briefly going back to the remake things, this joke is going to fall a bit flat now, given recently. But I would love to have played Advance Wars 1 and 2 when I was planning to, the remaster of it when I was planning to. But unfortunately, that also got delayed due to the Ukraine war.
Because Nintendo were like, we can't make a game about war and how cool war is, especially when like one of the first enemies you fight is basically a Mother Russia character. Like he's a big like Soviet like he's like stylized like a Santa character, but he's very obviously like, I'm Russian.
Yeah. Not
Snow, my friend, good.
Not the first time that's happened with Nintendo. I mean, on the Russian angle, there is them turning like vodka Drunkenstein into Soda Popinski. That's a Punch Out character.
Punch Out.
Okay, sorry, you could have been making that entirely up, and I was hitting on it.
Yeah.
It's clearly a character from fucking Call of Duty. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah.
Jesus, Sergeant Drunkenstein, get over there.
I recently replayed all the Modern Warfare games, and I really, because this is probably a good one to talk about of remakes and remasters. And I really want to play the remaster of Modern Warfare 1 and Modern Warfare 2, because apparently the Modern Warfare 1 remaster is actually really, really good. Like, it adds a ton of extra sort of context and flourish to what's otherwise considered a pretty good game.
Modern Warfare is Call of Duty 4,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's it. I played that back in the day. It was great.
Didn't we play through the Modern Warfare remakes?
We played the remakes, but there was in 2016 a remaster of Call of Duty 4.
Oh yeah,
That
was just the
yeah.
campaign, and everyone was like, "What the fuck? I want the multiplayer."
And then they added the multiplayer, and it was apparently great.
Which I mean, yeah, it was
Yeah.
a fucking goat game when it came out.
Yeah, it's apparently according to some circles, the definitive version of Call of Duty 4's multiplayer, and
Oh.
one with significantly less hackers on it now.
Yeah,
but
it will not have the peak, the experience, the laurels on its chest, the medal that is fucking Wings of Redemption's breakdown.
oh my god, yeah. Jesus, yeah, a bit hard
I
to.
can't play that map now without picturing him breaking his controller. It's
bog, yeah. Yeah, that's a little bit hard to remaster.
Remaster that sweet feeling.
Can we remaster the duel between Rings of Redemption and the Syndicate,
and,
right?
yeah, I think I was about
Is Syndicate still about? He's still making content, right?
I think he is.
probably. I think he's like a CS:GO.
It's a couple of years since that big scandal happened, so he's probably fine.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
the
he probably-
gambling scandal.
Yeah,
Fuck, I
yeah,
forgot
yeah,
about
he
that.
was- that was that CS:GO as well?
Yeah, it
That
was
was
CS:GO.
CS:GO.
The skin gambling
Yeah.
website. Yeah.
I mean, the main guy that exposed him about it died, so you know
Fuck.
he can't.
Really?
Well, yeah, Total Biscuit.
Oh right. Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't realise Total Biscuit was the
Ripped to the goat, by the way.
Yeah,
Gone too soon. Fucking legend.
I know. He did a lot for PC gaming YouTube
Absolutely.
and gaming YouTube in general.
He
frankly.
was the driving force behind PC ports getting the better fucking control, like input and control schemes, and not just being, we made this for the 360, but it runs on PC, so here you go. You have no fucking options. Die.
Yeah, I think a lot of the amount of stuff you can do on modern games would probably make him very happy.
Oh, yeah.
Wherever he is now.
I would have loved to have traded 10 years of my life so I could have him complain about Cyberpunk.
Oh yeah,
So I think that
came
would have
out.
been fucking exquisite.
Yeah. Hey, should we make it? Should we get a remake of Cyberpunk 2077?
I've been watching someone do a playthrough of that recently, and it's really quite functional.
Oh yeah, it's
and
way better now.
I've heard nothing but good things from it, and I know there's a DLC coming out soon. Maybe by the time this is released, it's going to be out now.
Ooh.
I'm not entirely sure.
I've heard it's been floated around. I'm not sure if it will be out by the time we're done with this.
But
video.
it is. They have straight up confirmed it is their last one before they're making a sequel.
Yeah.
because they've moved everyone else onto the sequel, and also the new IP stuff that CD Projekt Red are working on.
I honestly think the Cyberpunk sequel will be, because they're going to do like The Witcher.
Yeah.
Like Witcher 1 sucked. I don't care who you are out there who's looking at the screen going, but no, Witcher 1 was great. Witcher 1 sucked.
Oh, it was financed by
Yeah.
Atari, wasn't it? The Witcher one.
might have been.
Atari has some kind of link to the Witcher one.
Oh,
that's
God.
why
Atari
it's-
has their fucking cursed tendril and everything. The remasters. Okay, I just peeked the mic, but fuck it. There was a Blood remake, like, a year ago?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was fucking hyped. Fresh Supply. I was like, yes, Blood. Not running on a hacked together, like, glued together, faked build engine because no one had the source code. It was gone. But turns out the devs didn't actually have the source code either. They just used a lot of the decomposition, not decomposition, the like reverse engineering, and then just built the rest of it themselves. But they were financed by Atari, who pulled the money, and there's been no updates, and it is bug ridden. But they've even said, like, one of the last like blog posts they made was them saying, hey, we know what's wrong with it. We literally can't be paid to finish it.
I mean, fair. It's better that than them sort of put them through a bunch of unpaid work, right?
But it's what happened to fucking Blood 2 as well. Like, they got, I think it wasn't Monolith. I forget who pulled the money. But basically the dev team went like, here's where we are, this is how long we'll need, this is what we want. And the fucking publisher went, cool, we're releasing it. And they're like, the game isn't done. No, fuck you, we're releasing it.
That
So-
is every publisher.
Oh,
Like, that
holy
is,
shit.
when they invest that much in it, and they're just like, yeah, dump it out early.
We don't care,
No Man's
finish it.
Sky, exactly the same situation.
Ah, but No Man's Sky is such a redemption arc. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
It is, and it's such a shame that so few people give a shit.
Yeah.
Can I point out specifically something to you, White?
Go on.
On Thunder's t-shirt,
Mm.
don't move Thunder. It just says "Come Sin." Right?
I had to like snap my head and I see the word
Come.
It does. It does. Says "come" and "sin" on it. What is the full shirt size?
It says Rebel Scum since 1997.
Right, yeah, full context.
Yeah.
He's wearing like a button-up shirt over the top, and the shirt was open, and it only revealed the words "come" and "sin." Two separate words.
Ah,
Sorry,
yes.
I had to. It's a great shirt.
Come and sin, 2 words that were used in reviews for the hit 1999, 2000 FPS game, Sin. There's certainly cum in it.
Sin and Cummenschman.
Sin and cum.
In Before This is just an elaborate ruse to get enough of us talking to create an AI chat GBT for you guys.
I hate that.
Like, that's all that
Let me
is.
bring back Microsoft Sam from the gag I made at the beginning of the video.
Yeah, Sam, come on, say a few words for us.
I don't think any AI could truly replicate your wretched voices. You are relying upon this container that could never be replaced.
Wow, that was...
Why would you say that?
I thought it was lovely. I don't know about you.
Okay, I have no idea what that's going to be. But
I feel as though every time we go off the rails, every time we try to go back onto the remake topic, it's like the train is being dragged back onto
It's like
the
a
track.
fucking magnet, like,
Yeah,
fucking...
and it's like swaying like that.
yeah, because we are as good at talking to each other as we are with any other human being, which is terrible. And so we
Yeah.
have to rely on very oblique,
Yeah.
sort of sequences.
Yeah.
By the way, if you could only pick one game to get a remake or remaster, which would it be?
Oh, I have to pretend to have to think about this. 'Cause
Yes.
we totally didn't just discuss it.
Yes, we totally just have a
I-
break or anything.
I mean, the immediate answer I'd want to give is the original 2005 release of Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Hey, do I have some news for you?
No, that doesn't count.
It
That doesn't
does.
count.
It-
No, it does not. It does not count.
it counts as a remake.
That is not a remake. It is a reboot with the same name. Like Prey is not a reboot of Prey is a reboot of Prey, but Prey is not.
Prey
a
is
remake.
not a reboot of Prey. It's another game that we're like, here, have the fucking Prey
Well, that's-
name.
Is that then the difference? Have we finally, in our definition quest, come up with our third definition of the evening of what a reboot is?
Yeah. There we go. I mean, a reboot. That seems relatively.
It has
like,
the same name. It's basically
Okay.
it's a remake, but with the
No,
same name.
I would
Yeah.
specifically call those, and this is going to be like my moment where I invent a term in the gaming industry, and it's going to get stolen. Everyone will be like, "You won't want to do it." I would specifically call those Wendigo games because they wear the skin of another game, and they're like, "Come out and play me! I am definitely the game you remembered and loved," and then they eat you.
You know what? I really love that term. That took me by surprise. That fucking blew me away. That's good.
Like, I thought the initial hubris of this is going to be a thing that other people talk about was going to lead to like a pun bad take.
Yeah.
But that's not terrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like Prey is a Wendigo game. It wears the name of a game. Everyone's like, "Where's Prey 2?" And they're like, "Here's Prey." It's not Prey. It's
but
Space Shock.
But I feel
It's System Shock 2 again.
Okay, but like then the question has to be asked: if you then enjoy the Wendigo game, does that mean you got the big titty Wendigo waifu rather than the skin tearing monstrosity of folklore?
I'm sorry. Where the fuck do I sign up? When does this become a thing?
Welcome to the Bureau of Supernatural Control. Today we'll be discussing preventing regular people from fucking the Wendigo. Why does this keep happening?
Because people are monsters. And, they're monster fuckers.
People are monsters, and so are the monsters.
If anyone would like to sponsor this podcast, we will...
If anyone would like to sponsor this podcast, please don't.
Mystery Bad Dragon boxes for your chance at a full... No, I can't say that.
I would 110% be on board with a Bad Dragon sponsor.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, I would
And I would make the entire review based on doing anything else other than sexual things with them. You know,
Yeah,
use
It could
them
be a
as-
Tabasco pump.
Yeah, it could be a Tabasco pump. It could be like a coat hanger.
Oh my
Holy
god, that's
shit.
terrible.
Be a chew toy for your dog. You
Oh,
know,
Oh,
that would be
no.
horrifying.
Oh, God.
you know that's happened, though, right?
It definitely has.
You can attach a Picatinny rail to it and mount it beneath your rifle as a foregrip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I personally really enjoy, my giant dragon cock bipod for, my Barrett 50 cal,
The
Actually, yeah, that
flattened
would be-
foregrip allows it to balance neatly on surfaces.
Yeah.
So if Bad Dragon would like to get in contact with us...
Yeah, please. My business email is thunderpsycho@googlemail.com.
Oh my god, this is
fuck
terrible.
VPN and
Yeah.
Razor, right? Just
Yeah.
this is Raid Shadow Legends. It's
No.
all about various sex toy companies.
Yeah, fuck it. I mean, like,
Well,
Adam and Eve are a thing, aren't they?
So yeah, Battlefield 2. It's Battlefront 2.
Star Wars Battlefront 2. Battlefield. I mean, I liked Battlefield 3.
Yeah.
And Battlefield 1's apparently good. Battlefield 4 is apparently just 3 but better.
I played far too much of Battlefield 1 and I loved it. It was. I understand that my opinion is absolutely tainted by nostalgia because it was the first game that I was playing consistently with multiplayer, and also the first game I was playing consistently with multiplayer at university with people I was at university with.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I really enjoyed that as a game. But ignoring Battlefront 2 as your
Ignoring
choice...
Battletoads too.
yeah. What would your choice be? If you could pick just one to remaster that hasn't been...
That's the thing.
Or remake that hasn't been remastered
Yeah.
or remade.
Because if I was to go down, like, top down of my hierarchy of games that I really, really like, and by hierarchy I mean, like, just list of favourites, Dawn of War is the highest one up that doesn't have a remake or remaster. And
Would you want that?
that's the thing, I don't think I would. It's already on PC, I like how it is,
Right.
I don't have any issues with how it is right now. Like, and frankly, it's one of those things where if I would want anything different about it, I could mod that.
Yeah.
I've got no. I don't think that the stories need to be particularly retold in any way.
Yeah.
If anything, the main thing I would want out of the Dawn of War series is for its story to be continued in a way that retcons the shit I don't like. Like probably ignoring Dawn of War 3 entirely for one example, and
So the same way I would like the CNC franchise to continue.
yeah,
We don't talk about 4, it never happened.
yeah. There we go. But
50,000 subs, I'll do a Dawn of War, so CNC 4 video.
yeah, other than that, most of my favorite games are already have these. The one that does come to mind is Clock Tower 3, and the only reason is because I think Clock Tower 3 is perfect as it is, but it's only on the PlayStation 2.
Right.
And it would be nice if that was on other systems.
So what you'd want is a remaster of that rather than a remake of it.
Yeah, and a remaster where they don't fucking touch anything, because don't you dare.
Yeah,
That game is
okay.
perfect.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh, no, hold on. I just thought of the perfect one for me.
Okay.
Oh, here we go.
Ridge Racer Type 4.
Fuck, that's a good choice.
I want a remake of Ridge Racer Type 4 that keeps the acid jazz vibes, that keeps the fun of that racing, but adds more teams, more campaigns, more cars, a more sort of dynamic like pole position system, more modes, more maps.
I mean,
like that's what I want.
Fuck, that was the peak of like acid jazz, drum and bass, like trance,
Yeah.
like PlayStation 2, like glory music.
Yeah. Ridge Racer Type 4 soundtrack is possibly my favourite game soundtrack ever made.
Really?
Yeah, it's up there with my other ones I'd contend with are things like Halo 2, Fire Emblem Echoes, because dear Christ, am I like what is wrong with me? And
You experience something enough, you start to get addicted to it. It's like
Yeah.
it's like broccoli.
it is like broccoli.
What? What the fuck was that analogy?
Wait a minute.
Hold on. You eat something 3 times, you start to like it.
I agreed with you without thinking about it. I am so malleable in this way.
I am a corrupting element in this organization.
Yeah, Thunder Psyker, a man who is addicted to broccoli.
Somebody tell me how I'm supposed to feel when I'm sitting here knowing this ain't real.
What would you fucking do if Joe Biden's next like speech as he runs for president is going to be hosted in Minecraft? Like a bunch of journalists and stuff have to log into Minecraft and they build a big stage and he.
I
Just
mean, it would be better if they did it on fucking Fortnite.
Oh yeah, that's
At least
the
I
like.
wouldn't be able to like floss in front of Martin Luther King.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Christ.
Fortnite is for Martin Luther King, Emperor Palpatine, and Rick and Morty.
Counterpoint, what if John Wilkes Booth ran up to like Lincoln, pulled the gun out, and then went, "Ha, psych! Just joking, bro. It's a social experiment."
I think
Would you still arrest him.
I think that Abraham Lincoln would take that very well, and he'd be like, "Oh."
And then his head would just do that.
Damn. Well, it was
and his head would just explode.
It was an unrelated incident. Damn.
No.
Can't believe it. We arrested a man. It wasn't his fault.
Nice meme, bro.
It's the worst part about writing jokes, though, is that you have such an enthusiasm to keep using them, but because this is the problem I find with memes is that like memes get worn out so quickly because so many people so many people can make them.
When I was a boy, we had to live on Icon's cheeseburger for 5 whole years.
I mean, this is something I once watched a video that was tracking the popularity of memes from 2004 onwards, like one of those little bar graph videos where they keep swapping spaces.
That's cool.
And before 2012, some memes would be born one year, be popular, be gone, and then 2 years later they would suddenly come back.
Well, yeah, because
You mean they had a meme remake?
Well, because it's like irony posting, right? Of just it's.
This was prior to irony posting. Nowadays, you look at things like Doge, and like Doge in its original form in like 2013 was pretty cringe, to be honest. And then it became
still pretty cringe, but just metas around.
Yeah.
I don't think we can comment on anything else being cringe.
No, when we're the way that we are, no,
exactly.
it's that's the thing.
Or maybe it means we can comment on it more because we are cringe connoisseurs.
Yeah, it takes one to know one. That's my thinking. Also, let's be real, cringe is dead. That's my Thunder Psyker political opinion. Is cringe is dead, and fuck it, do what you want.
What was the line that Speaker said? Cringe is dead and I'm still breathing?
Yeah, there you go. Speaker D successfully defeated cringe, and that's a very powerful.
He fought for our sins, or our cringe, and he isn't dead, but we pretend he is.
Yeah, that was a very interesting Last Supper picture.
Yeah.
Was all of the Ogre Popenang staff.
Isn't that just your cover art for your fucking Yu-Gi-Oh? Like,
yeah, right.
they play Yu-Gi-Oh together, and they have an app. They do it on like a open source software thing, and their fucking like splash screen for loading in is just everyone in really dumb faces like plastered around.
Yeah, it's a bunch of really good headshots of us just like plastered over the default loading screen for that, because it's one of those programs where every asset is like a JPEG file or an MP3,
Right.
So you can swap everything, and as a result, all the sound effects have just become ridiculous shit. And we've even changed some of the pictures on the cards and just made the game into our own, really.
Yeah.
My main goal with it was to take basically all of the cards that had the word cat in it and just replace them with a funnier cat picture.
Please put a showreel right here as we're saying this.
Yeah.
Of the cats just flashing by.
I will if you're watching this on YouTube, because for all we know, we could put this on Spotify or something. I don't know.
You're listening to this on Apple Go Play on your iPod Nano.
Yeah. I'll pop them up now. There'll be Art Attack music playing. Probably.
Are we
If I don't
legally
get-
allowed to do that?
I mean, isn't Art Attack dead? If not, I'll put on something like less likely to get us strikes.
Quickly, Graph Paper Man, give us the free open source music.
Like Microsoft Sam, auto-tune yourself over the...
I don't need auto-tune, bitch.
You know who I'm talking about. I forget his fucking name. Kevin McLeod? No, that's the actor.
Yeah.
Kevin McLeod, the leader of Star Fox. No.
Oh, I mean, I was going to say, if we're talking about remakes, that's one series where basically every game in it is a remake of the original.
Yeah, because they're like, please,
Yeah.
please, what did you like?
Star Fox 64 is just a reimagining of the SNES Star Fox. You've then got Star Fox Zero, that's the exact same thing. Star Fox on the DS. Adventure. Well, Ventures was a bit different, but that was because they just took a Rareware
Star
game.
Fox Assault.
A Star Fox Assault was them going, oh fuck, Halo exists.
What if we had tank combat in our flight sim?
Oh, that's been a thing for a while. It's more. There's like on the ground you have a
I
gun
remember.
combat. Fox McCloud has like a Halo 1 assault rifle. It's really silly looking.
Do you remember when in like what was it Brawl or Melee where everyone was like, yeah, Falco just shoots faster and there's no downside to that.
He shoots slower, but his beam is longer and it stuns you. That's the difference.
Yeah, I remember
Because-
I remember being like,
Oh,
yeah, this is
God.
bullshit.
Yeah, that's a title for some Rule 34, isn't it?
What? It's his beam is longer and it stuns you.
Yeah.
Yeah, furries, do your thing. I'm pushing this joke way too hard. I
Yeah,
need to...
you have been stuck on
you
that
have been
one
fucking
comment for
conscripting
so
Because,
long.
listen, they have an incredibly powerful economy, and I can't lose their
First,
support.
we beg for a Bad Dragon subscription,
Yeah.
no sponsorship.
Beg? How dare you? I demand.
All right, true. Angles being the most powerful of us here on the power ranking.
Yes, the completely cloutless one is the. That should just be my
that's
name.
your power,
That's,
though.
that's the thing. You have nothing to lose.
This is true.
yeah,
And everything to gain.
there you go.
Yeah, this
But
is the thinly veiled reason for this entire podcast is for these guys to bully me into content creation so I can suffer with them.
Yeah,
Yes.
make your Dark Souls highlight video.
No.
Make your Skyrim video you want
No,
to do.
I won't.
Join us in the editing minds, the torturous world of making content for you wonderful people who are listening right now.
It's fun.
As much as I really am jealous of the audience aspect of it and the camaraderie of being a creator, I don't have the stomach for it. I don't think I could hack it, and so that's why I don't do it.
This is one of those things that I would love to say on a bigger video, and I more than likely will. But one thing that I think about a lot is the sheer amount of comments that people are willing to give that are like positive and give praise, that go,
Right.
hey, I really like what you're doing and I appreciate your work, because I'm the kind of person that does read that kind of stuff, and the only thing that stops me from replying to every single one saying like thank you so much is the fact that if I miss one person, they're gonna feel singled out.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And-
I think it's also important to point out, as this podcast is a sort of rebranding or remake, reboot of the previous version, other than my one friend's joke negative comment, all the comments on that were positive that I remember.
Yeah.
And I remember checking up on that occasionally because I have an ego problem.
Hmm.
And it was
went
really
well.
nice.
It went well. It's just a shame we didn't have time to do it.
Yeah, so many things got in the way of that. And
We were
now-
finishing uni.
and we
We were trapped in a container and we had no access to the
Oh
Spyro.
yeah, right. So
Yes, and then there was a pandemic and
Oh,
all that kind of
that
shit.
sucked.
But the point being is that I really appreciate that there is an audience out there for your content that then went over and listened to that, and that was all positive. And it's really lovely that you guys have that. But it's one of those ones that, man, it would the pressure of like making a YouTube video and releasing, especially if it's an opinionated one. So it's because both of you do gaming reviews, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
I get flack from people being like, "Why are you covering this game and not the early one in the series?" And it's like, because I haven't played MechWarrior 2.
Yeah.
Who the fuck has that
Yeah.
hasn't got children?
Yeah, this is that's the thing as well, is that I think an angle that my channel might have to go down is I've never played this before and I want to give it a first look, because I recently put out a little thing asking for some recommendations for stuff.
Yeah.
I got some really good recommendations.
All right.
Half of them are things I've not played before, so
Cool.
they're ones where there'll be brand new dives into stuff, and I hope that I add something to those.
I really want to do a horrifying collab crossover thing where you cover like something from the CNC series that's obscure, and I cover like Halo Wars.
Yeah, oh, I would fucking love that, dude.
It's just like, what am I doing on your channel? Why am I here? Halo Wars!
Unironically, that would be so good.
That would be funny as fuck.
And yeah, in general, it's like content creation is a whole fucking thing. It's a real beast of its own.
I mean,
but-
it's, at the end of the day, it's fun. We enjoy making stuff. We enjoy people liking the stuff we make, but it's not why we do it.
yeah,
Like, we make it because we want to be creative and we want to share our passion for this industry that we've all tried to get into and
this.
to some degree it's all failed to.
Well, that's true, but I don't think about that so much. To be honest, YouTube is something that I've always loved doing, and I think it's a huge shame that one of the biggest reasons that I didn't make more stuff was the fact that I just lost a spark for it along the way.
Right.
And so that's the whole reason that I'm doing that. I've come back on Thunder Psyker. I've made the Thunder Striker channel, and I'm doing stuff like Return to
Yes,
Sender.
yeah.
The list goes on. And I'm doing not just the retrospectives again, but I'm also doing a few other videos on top of that.
Yeah.
I mean, recently, I'm not sure how recent it'll be when this video goes out, I covered a couple of games that were sent to me, and that's been one of my fastest videos turned around, and I'm really happy with how that video turned out. Like, it was genuinely like, I want to play a couple of games I haven't played yet. I fucking love these. Holy shit, this rocks.
Yeah.
And it really shows, like, I say it really shows, but I think it really shows my, like, review of them, of, like, this isn't me going, like, oh, this is a honeymoon period. This is me going, I've been given games by other devs before, and sometimes I've been like, stuff's alright, I don't think I would make a video on it, 'cause it's not really my field, or this kind of such. And I played these two, and I'm like, okay, this one I've been looking at, this one's a Doom clone, so fuck it, why not?
Yeah.
And they fucking rocked.
Yeah.
And that's why I made a video on them.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's also nice to like help developers out like that.
I haven't watched your most recent video, but something I really appreciate about sort of content is when it's honest in a way that is. Because the thing is, another thing that really puts me off a lot of YouTube stuff is the fact that there is a correct opinion. There isn't.
Yeah.
But the idea that if I was to release something, or if you guys were to release something, it's like, here are my impressions of this game.
Oh yeah.
And someone goes, well, actually, this is and you enjoyed it, or you enjoyed a very specific part of it, and you didn't think about it like too much in terms of you played it, you enjoyed it, you made a video on it, that's it. And then you get other people coming in and being like, well, actually, this was a really bad point for the series to be at. A lot of the fans hate it.
Or you get like the Nintendroids coming out of nowhere being like, how dare you say this game is not the greatest thing since sliced bread?
Or the worst. It's the Skyrim paradox thing of like, initially when it came out, everyone was raving about it. Then there was a period of time where people hated it and talked about how much they hate it. And now we've wrapped all the way back around of people are praising it to be different from those people.
There's like a microcosm within that of like everyone being like, oh, I never play Stealth Archer. It's like, fine, we fucking get it. It's not funny. But alas, I want to say, before someone breaks their arm jerking themselves off here,
You don't need to, I'm doing that for you.
stop.
Cease.
Yeah, you're down to what, 4 legs now? Like,
How? But alas, my point was being, you made a question earlier.
I did.
I didn't get to answer.
Oh yeah, sorry, we gotta bounce around.
I'm
So
ever so sorry.
No, it's alright. We discussed fun things.
one remake or remaster that hasn't already been done before.
Okay, so I had to ponder this, and my immediate answer would be Ace Combat Zero.
Right.
Very good game.
Very good game. Literally exists on the PS2 and nowhere else. There's no PS Remake, there's no PS4, no PS5, there's PC port. It should have one, because it is honestly, in my opinion, one of the greatest games in that series. And, I mean, that's a bit of a fucking, everyone has an opinion, it's not original. Who gives a shit if it's not original? It's a good opinion. It's a good fucking game.
The only contact with Ace Combat I've ever had are the clips of people flying through, like, impossibly, like, narrow tunnels and shit, backflipping as they do it.
That shit is fun.
It's very fun.
When you have to do it as part of the game towards the end, it's just like, oh, fuck, your lessons now.
Yeah, I mean, I was just being because White got me to play it, and
What got you to play it?
White got me to play Ace Combat Zero, and I kept like unintentionally having very close calls with the ground.
Oh, there was one time you like skimmed it by like 5 meters, and I was like, how the fuck did you survive?
because I was fucking stupid.
Any one of those JPEG trees touched you, you would have died.
Would have done. But that made it all the more fun and tense. Was those close calls?
But now I think of like other games. I'm like games that could do with the remake treatment, not the remaster or just re-release.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck. There are so many ones. Like I would easily say Tib Sun and Red Alert 2 absolutely would be my next. Like I fucking want that. I want Red Alert 2 remake because that would be astounding. Tib Sun remade in like a nicer engine would be nice as well. It'd be very weird because they're both very tonally different games and they'd be running on the same engine. So it'd be like, because Red Alert 1, Red Alert 2 have Red Alert 1 and CNC 1 have quite similar themes and therefore their engines don't have to look too different. Whereas like Tib Sun is this dystopic nightmare world and Red Alert 2 is this like very funny, haha cliche, I'm going to go to space! But that's CNC, that's Red Alert 3. But honestly, that's something I'd love to see an actual remake like treatment go to.
Right.
But God, it's a tough fucking question because you look at a lot of our games, you're like, do I want this remade because I feel like it could do with it?
Right.
Or do I want it remade because I'm nostalgic for what I remember it being? And going back to it now, I'm seeing it through adult eyes and with a history of like better experience in games and basically a higher bar. And going back and going, this isn't really that good.
Yeah. Could you think of any games that hugely missed their potential? Maybe even games you don't like that you think missed their potential that could do with a remake.
Mass Effect 3, CNC 4, Dawn of War 3, Ground Control, the entire series.
Oh, fair.
Call out to the original OGs of Ground Control. I'm trying to think more. There are so many games where I'm like, this game could be really good, and it just sucks.
Yeah.
There's plenty of games that also had a rushed ending. As in, they ran out of money at
NGS5.
the end. Yeah, so any studio that ran out of money at the end. My answer again for the remake thing comes up here, and it's Morrowind.
Oh.
I would want a remake of Morrowind, but that
Fifth
was
house ending. Fifth house ending.
That was one of the endings that were cut, and also a lot of the great house content was cut because of time, and so that's another great reason to have something be remade or remastered if a studio runs out of time.
So, I guess we're wrapping up because I can see the light is fading a little bit on the microphone.
Yeah, the car battery I
Yeah.
hooked up to it is probably dying.
There's a lot more that we can say, but we will be here all night if that is the case.
Yeah,
Uh,
literally will be.
And as a result, after this sort of long ramble, I'm surprised that we've sort of semi-stayed on topic, but it's been...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
the beauty of this show, though. We don't have to stay on topic
Yeah.
because we love each other.
I'm very curious to see, because obviously this will be edited down, so yeah, it might even sound like we did stay on topic. I'm very curious to hear from people who actually listen to this and enjoy it, if they do exist. Would they want it to be longer? Would they want it to be more off topic?
Yeah.
What
What do you like? What do
Yeah.
you hate? Give us
Yeah.
the feedback.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear it.
We're not going to promise that we're going to do it.
Yeah, as far
But
as...
we
yeah.
want to know.
As
Tell
far
us what you think. We don't promise we care.
as far as I'm concerned, I just like talking about basically anything
Yeah.
on these sorts of things. I don't mind how off topic they go.
No.
But that's because I'm part of that conversation, and I don't know how interesting that is to hear.
People listen to podcasts for that.
Yeah.
Like you!
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Maybe they don't. Maybe they want us to be remake all the time.
Well,
And
what the hell are they doing 2 hours into this?
well, I don't know. Like
Or however long the edited version is going to be.
some cost fallacy. Who knows?
What the hell are they doing?
1.5.
Hours into this.
Yeah. Thank you, Microsoft Sam, for your input.
Please don't invite me again.
Yeah, I guess let us know what you'd be interested in with us doing with the Return to Sender podcast, because otherwise we will probably just wing it.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe it's worth asking you guys the question. I can cut this otherwise. Should we let people nominate topics? Or do we want to come in with whatever
I'm
we want?
happy for people to make suggestions.
Yeah, we
but
can
again,
discuss it.
with the full expectation that we might not do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But there will come a time where we won't stop with coming up with things to say.
Hmm.
It might be that people want, specifically your opinions on those things.
I mean, we're massive fucking dorks. We could talk about this like genre or rather this field for hours.
Yeah.
If you want to hear us ramble about shit, then leave a like, subscribe to this channel, go look at Thunder Psyker and be like, this guy knows video games. Go look at me and be like, this guy doesn't know video games.
And don't look at angles he
Yeah,
doesn't do.
Try and
Be-
find angles.
Be
Good luck.
unable to find me.
There is 7 ingots of gold buried beneath a location of angles. Good luck.
We will be back at some point, and I will definitely not talk about Warhammer far too much because of the
don't
new
worry, I
editions.
Oh,
Mind
that's,
too much about that.
that's the thing. You can do that if you'd like, mate.
I'm just
But
torturing these two in a box. That's what's happening.
We're just being reminded of the horrors that were. But anyways, thank you for listening. This is Dr. White signing off as the light fades away. Oh no!
this is Thunder Psyker. Thank you very much for listening. Please have a look at both the Dr. White channel and the Thunder Psyker channel.
Just said that, you fuck!
I'm just, all right. I mean, the light's basically gone now, so they can't hear us, right? Like, if the light's gone, I can't
I can't
see it
believe we
anymore.
got paid for that Bad Dragon, like, sponsorship.
Oh yeah, I mean, God, it's been like, I mean, Todd, like, you want to come over and say a few words?
Degenerates.
Oh, thank you, Todd. Thank you. We've already told them that.